put those two numbers together until this.
Any other questions?
Unless there's anything else, then I think we can get on with some hoopla.
All right. Okay. So, if you can go to the next slide, I just want to show you, if you could recall, this is where we started. You know, we were at, so back in January, we had, we didn't really have limits so much. We were at the we were at COVID level limits for checkouts. We were at limits per person were 15 items every person could check out, and then we didn't really have a cap on what we were spending per month. And so we were noticing, and I didn't put the December 2023 numbers on, but even from December to January, we noticed a big jump, and then it kept high, and then. You'll recall in July, we hit $45,000 that month with 20,000 checkouts, and realized, and it's 20,000 checkouts, but it's only about 6,000 patrons using that. And so, 6,000 out of 180,000 people could potentially be checking things out. And if it continued to grow at that rate, we were already over our hoopla budget, well over the hoopla budget for 2024. So we had to put some brakes on things because we didn't want to run through our entire materials budget and then end up in a situation where we had to stop purchasing library books and all materials. So we did some very drastic, put a $20,000 cap on it, and reduced the checkouts to, okay, I think we can go to the, okay, no, stay on this slide. So we put some limits on, so people could only check out 6 items at a time instead of 15, and then put that $20,000. And it was hard. I will say, I kudos to the staff because they dealt with all the phone calls. People were really upset, and I know that people were really upset. And it's not a fun thing to do, to take something away that people like and that they're using. But then we did add some extra money back in November and December. And then, but that got us through 2024. And so if you go to, let's go to the slide. Slide 4. Okay, yeah. So we made some changes, and one of the problems that we had when we did this was we found that the cap it's not just $20,000 for the month. It's $20,000 split between however many days that month. And so once you hit that daily limit, it's cut off. So we were hitting that cap before, very, very early. And so people were staying up till midnight to make sure they got their checkouts in. And that was just unsustainable. And we tried a lot. We tried working with Hoopla. We had a lot of really great ideas. We asked them to change our time zone to New Caledonia, which they would not do. And I still maintain they could have done it, but that would have reset our time to like 9 a.m. So, because nobody should have to stay. So, we experienced a lot of problems, but we learned a lot. And so then for this year, we increased our monthly cap to $35,000. And we still have the same 6 item checkout on that we, like 6 items per person that they can check out per card. So one of the other things we've done is we now mask titles on Hoopla that are available on Overdrive, because Overdrive is significantly more affordable. And so these are not just everything, but like Overdrive started offering, it's called a simultaneous usage. So basically it's the same thing as what Hoopla could offer. You can have, most of the things on Libby, you have to take turns, right? So you get put on a hold list. But there's a new model where you can, 100 people could check it out at once, which is the same thing on Hoopla, but it's just cheaper. So we now hide those things on Hoopla that we can offer the exact same thing, but it's on Libby, and it's just a more affordable price. Want to go to the next slide? Okay, so now what we're seeing, the results of this, we're not hitting our daily cap until about 8 p.m. And that's only for that first week. And then after that first week, we don't hit that daily cap until about almost midnight. So we've seen an increase in checkout and a decrease in the amount of money we're spending because we're no longer spending on the most expensive items that are available on. So if you look, our comparison, you can go to the next slide. We are now serving more people, checking out more items, and we've saved about $13,000. So, yeah, I was really excited to look at those numbers. So,
What's that year to date then?
I'm sorry, what?
Year to date, that's how much we've spent.
That's just, I'm sorry, this is just a comparison of March. We were just comparing March to March.
One
So,
month.
but like when we looked at this number, we're gonna start collecting this data for every month so we can compare it. So, but it seems like that we've reached a sweet spot. You know, I think we'll have to constantly evaluate this as more and more people start using it. You know, I mean, because 6,000 people are, no, I'm sorry, there was about 6,000 who use, because that's our combined users. But the number of users who use Hoopla is not that many, and so if we start getting more and more and more, it is something we will have to evaluate. And a lot of libraries have just stopped offering it altogether because it's becoming financially sustainable. But we're in a good spot now, so we can.
Does Overdrive have the selection that Hoopla had? Because I've been told Libby didn't have anywhere near the selection that Hoopla did.
So we select the items that go into
Okay.
Libby, whereas Hoopla is just everything.
Oh, Hoopla's everything. Okay.
But there's a lot of things that aren't available on Hoopla that we can purchase. For a lot of the like newer titles are available on Overdrive, but not. But if there's something that people want to see in Overdrive or Libby, then they can just request it and then we can add it. And the nice thing is like if we do add it, it's available within 24 hours. So.
Okay.
And we still have a 35,000 monthly cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So the difference is.
Okay. Any questions?
I had a coworker this week stop during lunch and said, she lives in Brooklyn. My library, I have to wait until midnight to check out my books on Google. What is going on with that? So I was like, I know something about that. But it's great.
It worked.
So,
It was hard, but we
Yes.
got through it. It worked.
Some communication. All right. Anything else on Google?
Oh yeah, this is our celebrating. Yes.
Sounds good. All right. Next item on the agenda is building projects updates.
So we have met with the we'll go through start with the small projects first. So we met with the architects and have gone through. They met with our staff and talked to the staff, walked through the areas. And so they have been working on. They've generated that menu of items that they were going to create. And so it's like just here's what the project will be. Here's how much it will cost, so that we can then go through the items. And Molly and I have met with them and did sort of like a ranking of, you know, we absolutely have to have this because the fire marshal said so, down to we would love this, but it, you know, maybe down the road. And so they were going to go back and do some refinements and we're going to meet with them again. And then hopefully at the next board meeting, we'll have that available to discuss with what the options are. So that's going well. And then for the third branch, we had a meeting with financial team, and I can tell you, so Matt from Veritas is working on an RFP to find an architect to help with just some conceptual drawings of, you know, here's what kind of a footprint we could afford and where it would go on the plot of land. And so doing some just high level of conceptual work. And so he will bring that next month for your. And then regards to there's a lot of, you know, have been a lot of significant changes that came about from the Senate bill that was recently passed, but Mike wants me to reassure everyone that there's nothing in it to prevent us from moving forward with this project. But we are going to monitor the situation, but that it won't impact what we're hoping to do. Yeah. Our next step on the third branch will be getting it in our. Any other questions?
And that's because for the third branch, we would use bond money for the branch, so we're not dependent on property tax income to build the branch, right? But to operate it, we would.
Well, we don't get additional operating funds, so it would be issuing a bond that would be replacing bonds that are rolling off. So our tax rate would just stay flat. So, but there's nothing in there that would prevent us from issuing a new bond.
When would we do that?
They're not certain about dates on things, so but let's see, what dates the basic? They would like to come and they want to present to, start talking to the finance committee for the county council in the fall, and then do a presentation to the full county council in December. So I imagine in the next few months, we'll be having a presentation. They want to get some things solidified about what the budget is going to be, going forward. Just, they want to make sure, they want to see what the MLGQ is going to be for next year in tax revenue. So Mike wants to wait a little bit and have some just certainty about what finance.
When is our current bond roll off?
I think, I want to say, is it 2028 or 2029? Yeah, so this would be,
So what monies will pay for like the architect and Paradis and stuff while we're waiting?
so we would pay for that, and then that's one of the next steps is when we approve the RFP for the architect and select an architect, they would we'll have a resolution to reimburse ourselves from that. So we would pay for it with our current money, and then when we when we get the bond, we could reimburse ourselves from that.
And do we need to wait till that bond rolls off to do any new one? I mean, are we, you know?
So they have, there's a lot of, I'm gonna let Ice Miller answer, Baker Tilly.
Okay.
They have a whole plan.
All right.
So, but they just want to they want to just have a little bit more certainty on, they have a pretty good idea of what we will be able to do, but they don't want to, they want to just get a little bit more certain about what funds are going to look like before they come in and to you.
The last payment on the 2021 bond is January 15th of 2029.
Good memory.
Any other discussion on projects? Next item on the agenda, Lisa. Foundation update.
So I unfortunately don't have any news from IRS, which is what we were waiting for. But we did have a terrific board meeting this past month, and we've set an agenda and several projects that we can do in advance of getting that. So we're working and moving forward to get ourselves prepared to better make a running start once we get that approval from the IRS. So then there's no word as to how long that'll be. We are just in a waiting pattern. That's all. Any questions?
All right, hearing none. Back to you. Director's report.
Okay, so we've contracted with Organizational Architecture. That's the group that helped with the director search. So we're working with them to look at our staffing structure to help us find efficiencies and maximize our current staff talent. But also they're going to help us build a staff model that would work for when we have 3 branches. What we have now was designed for our current setup, and so they're going to help us generate some ideas of how we could adapt things to work when we would have another building. Especially since, as I mentioned before, we don't get increased operating budget, so, adding staff is always, something Mike tells us to be very careful about, so we're gonna have to be very, strategic in how we use our current staff, and then how many people we can add, so that we can make sure we can operate the third branch. And so we're anticipating, they're very fast, we're anticipating a report from them in early June, and I'll be sure to bring an update back to you. And then we are tentatively scheduled to transition to our new voice over IP on May 6th. And the new picture book shelves should be coming in the week, should be delivered and installed the week after that. We're trying to get everything in place before summer reading starts, because that's always our crazy busy time, and we're gonna have everything done before then. And we had our first spring staff development day, and it was a really big success. And we had several really great presentations. Molly and Liz did a really great presentation on customer service. And then just especially want to thank Brad and John for their work on planning that day, because we got a lot of good compliments from staff. And then Brad and Julia made an appearance on Indy Now to promote the seed library. It's up and running, and it's one of our most popular services, and it's fully open and available to the public. So if you want to get some seeds there out there. And then our library staff did a lot of really great programs in March. Allison Kay arranged an author visit from Barry and Johnson, and she worked with HSCs in collaboration with HSC schools, because they also had Barry and Johnson out to visit the schools. So we were able to we did some cost sharing on that. And so he came in, he did an author talk and a book signing. And then she also collaborated with the Fall Creek Junior High Orchestra and did an orchestra story time, and it's so cute. And she did it last year as well, and so it's a really popular program. And then Public Services offered several great programs in honor of the City of Fishers March Disability Awareness Month. And Ignite had revamped their make-off program and offered it in March this year, and it was our second time doing it, and they made some changes and moved when they offered it, and they had a really great crowd. And so we're excited to see where that program is going to grow. And then I'd like to mention that Kelsey just wrapped up a really great internship with a group of students from Hamilton Southeastern High School. They have a really good media program there, and so she worked with them. And they came up with the campaign for the National Library Week. And it was like hidden gems in the library, and it was a scavenger hunt. And so they worked on multiple things for that. And she just did a really great job. It's always hard when you have an intern, because sometimes it's a lot of work. But she did a great job. And then the students are just so impressive. So, it was a good experience, and we are hoping to do a repeat of that. And we're hoping to get some more interns from the high school. I actually was just talking to Nicole about them. So there's a lot of different opportunities, so especially with the new work additions to getting a diploma, we're hoping that we can have some students come into that library and get some internship opportunities.
That does remind me that in the foundation board meeting, we talked about adding some students to assist with social media on the foundation side. And I said that we needed to ask you about it. So,
Sure. I'd love to be some kind of a conduit, for that.
okay, good. No.
Is there any questions?
Well done, okay. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job.
All right. That seems to be it for director's report, unless there are questions. There's no other for new business.
Motion to adjourn.
You can.
Helping everybody out.
All right, our next meeting is May 15th. Fisher's Branch, 6:15. Be safe.